Howdy folks, welcome back to the channel. It is a couple of days after Christmas, December 27th, I guess. It's a Friday. And I'm here at the boat just checking on everything, making sure everything is in one piece. And everything seems to be okay, no problems yet this winter. It hasn't been super cold this last week. It's been a little bit cold. Today it's kind of on the warmer side in the 40s or so. I haven't done a video for the channel for a while. I just kind of have been, I guess, disinterested in recording. The last thing I think I posted, no, the last thing I recorded was the Eastport tug-of-war between Annapolis and Eastport, which I did a video on last year. I went to it again this year. I recorded things, but I never did a video on it. So I still have all that footage just sitting in my camera, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. But anyway, for today, so what I figured I'd do, since I haven't posted something in a while, is I'll do a kind of a short-ish video on how to get into sailing. So if you follow any of the groups on Facebook or Reddit, you'll often see people on there asking, how do I get into sailing? I'm interested in sailing. What should I do? What would you recommend that I do if I'm interested in getting into it? A lot of times I'll respond on those comments, just kind of share my story on how I got into it, and maybe offer recommendations, having been involved in sailing for the last several years. So I started probably, I think it was back in 2006, 2005, 2006, 2007 time frame. I used to live in Indonesia, in Jakarta, and a friend of mine who I worked with there knew of a place called the Tanjung Lesung Sailing Club. And it's a sailing club in the Sunda Strait in between Java and Sumatra. And they're a sailing club mostly open to expats there, and it was run by an expat, a guy named Dave Bayless, who was British, and he had run the sailing club there for forever, I think. And it was kind of like a neat little place that you can get out of the city. It was like a few hours from Jakarta to get there, a few hours drive. So we would go there on the weekends sometimes, and they had sailboats there, most of which were lasers, optimists, pico lasers, and maybe a Hobie Cat or something like that. But what we would usually do is go there and sail the lasers, and that's how I learned how to sail. So my friend at the time, he's from Virginia originally, and he sailed most of his childhood on the Chesapeake on a Hobie Cat, so he knew how to sail and knew the ins and outs, and he taught me how to sail on a pico laser, which is the laser that is a little bit bigger than a regular laser, where you can put two people on it. A regular laser, it's hard to get two people on it. You can, but the pico laser was a little bit bigger, so I learned how to sail on that. So sailing a laser is very simple because you've got two things that you can control. You've got the rudder in one hand and you've got the main sheet in the other, and so you can steer and then control your speed and then control your tacks and jibes, with that one sheet. So it can get more complicated than that. I guess if you add on the pico laser, you could add a jib to that. But a regular laser, I think you can also add spinnakers and jibs to those as well. But we just very simply just had a laser, one sail up, and it was a piece of cake sailing. So I learned how to sail, the basics of sailing with that. So fast forward a couple years, we moved from Jakarta to Western Maryland. Western Maryland is not that close to any bodies of water that are suitable for sailing. It's about 2.5 hours to the Chesapeake Bay from Western Maryland. So while we were out there, we had years ago, back in probably the early 2000s, like 2000, 2001, bought a small little half-acre plot of land out in Western Maryland. And it was on what was supposed to be a development, and you could go build a cabin there and that sort of thing. So we bought this land with the intent of building a cabin on it someday, and that never happened because it just was too expensive to build a cabin, especially because there were all sorts of requirements on what you had to build. It had to have a full block foundation and all sorts of things like that. And just by the time you put in a full foundation, you dig a well, you dig a septic, you're talking about a lot of money. So We had the land forever though. We just kind of held on to it, and I think we paid like maybe $5,000 for it when we bought it. And then after having it forever, we decided to get rid of it. So at about the same time, I thought, oh, you know what? I'd like to get back into sailing. And my wife was not interested. She's like, I don't want anything to do with it. Leave me out of it. You take the land. Whatever you get from the land, you can have that, and you can buy a boat. So great. So I put the land up for sale, ended up selling it for the same thing I bought it for, so like I think $5,000, and started looking for a boat. So the first boat that I kind of did a lot of research and kind of figured what I wanted was something that I could take out like on weekends, so that I'd be able to take out, stay in for the weekend or overnight, and then come back, you know, and kind of like a camper type RV, or like a pop-up camper on the water. So the best one that I found that suited that was a Catalina 22. So Catalina 22s, they made them for years, and there are, I think, 2 or 3 different evolutions of those. And the one I found first was an 86-ish model, 82, 84, somewhere in that range model. And it was like, I think, the second generation of the Catalina 22s. So the price on it when we bought it was, I think, right around $5,000. So whatever it was that I made on the land, I ended up buying this Catalina 22. So in terms of complexity, going from a laser to a Catalina 22 is not that much different. We're a little bit bigger, but all the controls are still the same. Plus you add a jib, which is just an extra sheet or a couple sheets that you have to worry about. But in terms of like steering and the main sheet and the way everything goes up and down, it was pretty much the same as like a laser. There no new concepts really to learn. It was just controlling more lines. And so we bought that boat, and then once we bought it, and then my wife went out on it once, she's like, okay, I'm sold. I'm interested in sailing. So at first she didn't want to have anything to do with it. She did it once, and then she fell in love with it. So now she loves sailing. But so that first time we bought this Catalina 22, and it was on a trailer. And the closest body of water that we had to where we lived at the time in Western Maryland was Deep Creek Lake. And Deep Creek Lake is a fairly big lake, not super big, but it's mostly power boats that are out there, very few sailboats. They do have some, but most of them are smaller lasers. And there's a bridge that goes across the middle of Deep Creek Lake that you can't get a boat with a mast under. So most of the boats there were pontoons type boats. So we took it up. Our intent was to take it, keep it near where we lived, and I ended up renting a spot at like one of those storage facilities. They had a parking lot for RVs and that sort of thing. So I got a spot there for the boat, and we parked the boat there on the trailer. And we tried the first season we had it to take it, drive it up to Deep Creek Lake, put it in the water, pick it back up, and then drive it back out to the parking garage or to the parking lot. That didn't work very well because the Catalina 22, it took forever to put the mast up. So especially we went out for like one day, and it took forever to put the mast up. And then once you launched it, you go around for a few hours and then you get back and you'd have to pull the mast in. Originally, what I wanted to do was to be able to go camp on the thing, but it turns out at Deep Creek Lake, there's a rule that there's no overnight anchoring like anywhere on the lake. I think it would be possible. They have a campground there that you could get like a small dock where you could probably bring it there and tie up to the dock, but we never really did that. We took it out once where we did go up to one of the docks there, and one of the guys at the dock says the biggest boat he's ever seen on Deep Creek Lake, and that was a Catalina 22, so it wasn't like a huge boat, but it did seem a lot bigger than a lot of the other boats out there. So we decided after that first year that we didn't want to have to keep putting the mast up and down, so we instead went down and started looking for marinas on the Chesapeake Bay. So that was a 2.5-hour drive for us, but it ended up working out well because we could drive down on a Friday night, get down to our marina, spend the night on the boat that Friday night, go out Saturday, spend the night Saturday night, go out Sunday, or head back toward home on Sunday. So it was kind of like a nice, place to go on the weekends and get out of town, and it seemed like you're on a vacation every weekend. So it was nice in that regard. So we did that for the next season. and maybe the season after that, I guess. But I think did it a couple seasons. But a Catalina 22, we actually had a slip. It wasn't stored on land. We looked at a couple options for that when we first had it. One was like just keeping it in the trailer down here. We found a marina. I think it's called Maryland Marina. It's somewhere on Middle River. And they actually had a good deal where you could have kept it on the trailer with the mast up. And then they would launch it for you. Anytime you give them a call and say, hey, launch it. And they launch it for you. And you never had to put the mast down because they could take it from their storage to the boat ramp and not have any wires above to cause a problem. So, but we ended up going to a place where we kept it in the water the whole time, also on Middle River at the time. So we were there for a couple seasons. I think then after we had the Catalina 22, my wife decided she wanted a bigger boat that had a bathroom in it, because the Catalina 22, the one we had, came with a camper type porta potty type deal. That was like the little small portable toilet that you'd have to empty the thing out. And we only would use that like if we were out, and I think she's the only one who used it. But if we were out like in the water, but most of the time we spent docked at the marina, so you could just use the marina bathroom. But after that, she wanted a boat that had a bathroom in it, so we decided to go up in size a little bit, and the next boat after that was a Pearson 28-2. So we bought the Pearson 28-2, ended up selling the Catalina 22 for almost the same thing I bought it for, and then bought the Pearson 28-2, which was like a super boat. I mean, in terms of like that size boat, it's probably like one of the best boats you can buy, just because the arrangement, it's arranged differently than most boats are of its size. It has the head is in the aft quarter of the boat rather than in the middle of the boat where like a lot of that size boats are, which and then the V berth is kind of open to the living area, so it was kind of like, it made it seem like a lot bigger than what it really was, and it had tons of space on it. So I really liked that boat. We took it out for a couple of seasons, at least 2 or 3 seasons, I guess. And then somewhere in that time, we switched from Middle River to Annapolis and moved up to Annapolis. And the reason why we switched is just because there's so much more to do in Annapolis. So we were in Middle River at a super nice marina called Cutter Marina, and it was a nice marina to be at. The only disadvantages of it were it's way up Middle River. So anytime you wanted to go out into the bay, it was a trip to get out into the bay. We originally went to that marina because they had a pool and everything there, and we figured my daughter, who did not like sailing, we could at least keep her busy, but of course she also doesn't like going to the pool. But she would come with us, and there was something to do that was kind of kid friendly. But once she got old enough to kind of stay by herself, stay at home by herself, and we could go down on the weekends to the boat, we decided to move to Annapolis, and then we got this marina here in Annapolis. So we had that with the Pearson 28-2. So we went out, probably the last straw for my wife was we went out like on a bad weather day and had like big waves and everything. And she said, oh, we got to get a bigger boat. So we ended up doing that, and that's how we end up with this one that we're in now, which is an Island Packet 32. So it's just a few feet bigger than the 28, but it's a lot more space, and it's definitely on the small end of a big boat. So that's kind of like, I guess, my quick boat story. And people often ask on these different groups, like, how do I get into sailing? So like, I think one way is the way I did it, where you just kind of like, you just go out and buy a boat. And I think like if you're like resourceful, handy, you can fix things, by yourself and that sort of thing, that's probably a good idea. If you're not, and then you're having to pay people to do all the work that you need to do, then that's probably not a good idea. I mean, I would say like, unless you have the money to do it, then you might not want to buy a boat. If you don't know how to fix the thing by yourself. So I would say like, if you are the the Mr. Fix-It kind of guy, then yeah, go buy a boat, or I should say Mr. Fix-It kind of girl. Buy a boat and work on it, fix it up, keep it in good shape, and then and learn, as you're going along. That's kind of the way I did it. I mean, I did learn the basics of it from someone else, but I probably could have jumped in to the Pierce or to the Catalina 22 without having any experience, and kind of figured it out myself. I mean, there's enough information on YouTube and the internet that you can figure these things out by yourself. Also, throughout the time, like before I bought the boat and after I bought the boat, I did a lot of reading on different different books on how to buy boats, how to specifically sailboats. There's a couple of really good books by Captain Fatty Goodlander. One of them is called like Buy, Outfit, and Sail, or something like that. Buy, Outfit, and Sail a Boat, or something to that effect. And it's a really good book if you're the type of person who can fix things for yourself, and you can buy a boat that you can fix up. So that would be one way to do it. I think the other way a lot of people recommend is that you go get involved or find a sailing club of some sort, which is kind of, I guess you could say, how I started in the sailing club in Jakarta. But if you go into any place where there are boats and marinas, there's a sailing club somewhere around there. For example, here in Annapolis, there are a few at least. One of the other, actually, that same friend who taught me how to sail in Jakarta, when we did come back to the States, we went with them. I think probably just once or twice we went with them. By that point, they were back in the States as well, and became members of a sailing club in Annapolis. And I forget the name of what it's called, but it's off Back Creek, or actually, I think it's actually off of Severn River. And they have Rainbow boats there. It's the brand that called Rainbow. Now, I think they're the only ones that actually have them. But they have these boats that are bigger than lasers, like as big as a Catalina 22 or bigger than that probably. You can go join, as a member, and then you do a quick training on how to work the boat, and then you can take the boat out whenever you want, which that's a nice option to do. So you don't have to buy a boat. You can learn how to sail, and you don't have to worry about the upkeep and all that sort of thing in a boat. So that's kind of like one of the benefits, like if you have the money to join a club like that, where you can use the club's boats and go out and learn and have fun. And maybe that's all you want to do. Maybe you don't want to like go live on the boat for the rest of your life or something crazy like that. But that is one way to do it. Another way is to find a club that does racing, and then and I think you'd have to want to race, I think, because racing is like a completely different thing than just like cruising, even though it's boats and it's, everything is the same, like in terms of working the boat and that sort of thing. But in racing, they often need people on the boat to help them like manage lines or just to manage weight distribution and that sort of thing. So you could find one of these clubs that do racing, and there are lots of them in Annapolis. And in fact, in Annapolis, there's the Spin Sheet magazine, which has every year, I think at least once a year, they'll do a series of meetups where they have people come together who need crew, and then people who want to be crew, and then they can hook up and find a boat for the racing season. Or find crew for the racing season. So that would be another way to do it, is you could go find somewhere, that has races, and that you want to be crew, and then you don't even have to worry about buying a boat. You don't have to pay anything. Just show up and then do what they tell you to do and learn the ropes that way. I think another thing that is probably worth trying out is just go talk to people. Just go to like a marina and find somebody, who's on their boat, and say, "Hey, can I ask you some questions about your boat?" or something like that. Because in general, from what I've seen, most boaters are like the friendliest people that you can imagine. And even on boats where we're like are super expensive, multi-million-dollar boats, and you see the same people, like we're all in the same marinas, and they're friendly, super nice people. So I think it wouldn't hurt if you wanted to do that. Just go talk to somebody and say, "Hey, how do I get into this? I'm interested in getting a boat. What's your story? How you did it?" So I guess then the three ways that I think you could do it: one, just go buy a boat and learn as you go. Number two, you could do the racing thing, and actually, I guess there are four. Number three, you could join a club that's not necessarily a racing club. And then the last one, number four, is just go start talking to people and try to get, in on their boats. So like one of the things that I've done a few times that I guess people have done with me is that I have a profile on, I think it's on Spin Sheet's website, that says it's for boats needing crew or crew needing boats, and I have my boat listed on there and saying, hey, if anybody wants to be crew on a boat, you're welcome to give me a call and we can arrange something. And I'm not a racer, so I don't do any of the racing. Most of it is focused on racing. I'm just kind of like out there goofing around. But I do offer that up to people and say, hey, if you are interested in just going and goofing around, then hit me up and let me know when you're available. And I've done that a few times with people. People have contacted me and said, hey, I'm interested in learning how to sail. So, and I'll take people out that way. So I enjoy doing that just because it's fun. I like to go out, and especially like on days where my wife can't make it, but I still want to go out, and it's always nice to have an extra pair of hands on the boat. So that's usually what I use that for. But I would say that if you're interested, just get out there and get involved somehow, like whether it be buy a boat, joining a sailing club, or even just finding somebody online and saying, hey, teach me what you know about boats. That is probably the best way to do it. Just get out there and get involved. So I think that's all I've got for this video. I kind of just wanted to do a short video just to prove that I'm still alive and still planning to make videos at some point. Update on the winter season so far. Like I said, the weather today is fairly nice. It's supposed to be like raining nonstop for the next week or so. There hasn't been a lot of wind. If there has been wind, it's been really cold. So I mean, it hasn't really been any good opportunity to go out sailing over the winter. I have everything winterized anyway. I still need to change the oil, which I may do today, or maybe I'll come here early next week or something to change the oil. But while it's raining outside or something. But that's pretty much all that's going on. Nothing big on the boat. Just waiting for it to get warmer, and I think that's about it. So I'll go ahead and end it there, and hopefully maybe over the course of the next couple months or so, I'll try to do a couple more of these videos before it gets warm enough to actually go out and sail. But that's all I've got, and thanks for watching, and I hope that helped anyone who is out there interested in sailing. And if you are in the Annapolis area, feel free to contact me, and we can try to go out, or I can at least give you a boat tour or something like that. But that's all I got for today. I will see you folks some other day.